Thank you for your cooperation. Where are you guys from?
We're from Vienna, Austria.
Today, I want to talk about English, like English education system and so on in your country and in Japan. English is not your mother tongue, but we are speaking English. Firstly, how much is it common for your people to be able to speak English?
Actually a lot.
Yeah, I'd say like 70-80% for sure.
Also mostly like the younger people,
Especially
speak
the
it more
younger
fluently.
Then I'm curious about how you guys learn English.
For me, I grew up with English because both my parents spoke English together, so that's how I was brought up. And also in school, of course.
Do your parents have like some English speaking background?
Yes. So my mom is from Austria and my dad is from Israel, and he can't speak German, so they spoke English together, and they spoke English together. So just naturally, I heard it as a kid and grew up with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your family has like diversity.
Yes, so
and
3 languages.
Yeah. That kind of like family, like your family, it's not rare.
It's not rare. It's very common.
I didn't grow up speaking English, but I learned it in school, and we basically learned it from the age of
Six, 7
as a main subject.
Yeah, for 12 years straight.
How many classes do you have per week?
3, 4.
3, 4 a week. Yeah,
week?
like an hour always.
When I was a student, we study English from 12.
Oh.
Okay.
It's late compared to you guys. And in total, we study English for 6 years. And we basically learn English by using like textbook, mainly focusing on grammar. We don't have oral lessons. What about it in your country?
Oh, it's very different. We had to focus a lot on like speaking it
Yes.
more than textbook
Pronunciation
and we had like exercises where we had to speak and had to learn how to speak it properly.
Yeah, and like
and pronounce it.
talking
and
to other people, your classmates, and
Okay.
also a lot of hearing exercises.
Yeah.
I had CD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, like in classes, you always have like speaking
Yeah.
exercise.
Mhm. Also, like if you finish school, like the last exam, you can choose if you want to like do an oral exam in English.
Yeah.
And most of my classmates did it. I also did it, and then you have to speak for 10 minutes straight about a topic. So you have to speak it basically.
Yeah. At this point, you should be fluent.
Yeah.
Did you go to public school?
Yeah.
Public school. So like a public schools English education is enough for to be able to speak English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To go through day-to-day like things.
Conversations,
Yes. Conversations. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Like the basics.
Basics.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you speak with some Japanese while you were staying here
In English?
in English?
Not really.
Actually, today.
Actually, today.
Yeah. We
Yeah, today. Yeah. Someone
asked to take a picture.
to take a few pictures, and she talked in English to us. She's a hairstylist, and she wanted to like take a picture. She, like
I see.
really
That makes
cute.
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 How was her English?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, we could understand her. She could understand us.
Yeah,
and
it was a
Okay.
good
Yeah.
conversation.
What do you think is the most important to be able to speak English? Because like a lot of people in Japan want to speak English, but they're struggling with it. So what is advice?
I would say just speak it. Even if you make mistakes, you'll learn to speak it better.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
definitely. And
From
it
my
might
experience.
feel weird in the beginning to speak English, but there is no wrong. That's that's a really good way to learn.
Yeah.
And to not be embarrassed about it and just speak it.
So like you guys already started actively speaking when you started learning English. You guys were also like afraid of it at the beginning.
I was a bit afraid in like the middle stage where you learned it, but you're not comfortable speaking it yet. School kind of pushes you to speak.
True.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Basically, the teachers push you to speak it because they have like exercises where they say, okay, stand in front of class and talk about, I don't know, a specific topic for a minute, and you don't have anything prepared, and you just have to speak it.
Okay. Whatever you know, you just say it.
And that's how we learned it, basically.
Okay. We need to try speaking, right?
Yeah, like actively speaking.
Yeah.
Just continue speaking and not be afraid.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your cooperation. Where are you from?
I'm from Russia.
Today, I want to talk about English. Firstly, we are speaking in English. You speak English. How is it common for Russian people to be able to speak English?
Most people, they know some of English, but their actual level is not as good. Most people, especially like one generation older than me and like so on, they would not be able to speak any of it. So I would say like my mom's and dad's generation, they're in their 50s. They do not really speak the language because back then they studied German in school, so that was like the first foreign language that they would study. But now my mom is actually studying English because she wants to travel with me. So yeah, like she's studying it on her own, and she's in her 50s.
In Soviet era, did they study English in school?
No, not really. No. It was mostly German, especially like after the Second World War.
So zero English in school?
Like mostly, yeah.
Approximately how many young people can speak English in Russia?
Like from what I remember, back in high school, most of my classmates, their English was okay, but like now, since most of them haven't really practiced the language, I would say like they would understand some of it, but they wouldn't really be able to speak it unless their job involves some sort of English.
Now I'm curious about how English is like taught in Russia. In Japan, we heard a few classes per week, like starting from like 12 years old. We basically didn't have speaking lessons. We always studied grammar and basically aiming for just like test. What about in Russia?
I would say it was all over the place. It wasn't as systematic as Japan. We didn't have like grammar lessons specifically. We just had the textbook, and like each textbook had like some grammar parts, and we studied that part. And the teacher would try to explain, like right before graduation, my grammar, it was just non-existent, because the way the teachers would explain, at least in my school, they could not explain any of the grammar. Like at least the students wouldn't get it. Closer to like last year of high school, I had pretty good vocabulary, but no grammar at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is your talk about like English class by any chance with Japanese?
I teach business English in Japan, so
you're here.
I'm kind of, yeah.
So like you can like compare like Japanese English education system and the Russian one. Like in your opinion, which one is better?
I would not say that there's a better one. Each one has its own flaws. I mean, both systems are pretty good. In Russia, there is not as much pressure as there is in Japanese schools.
Oh, you think there's a pressure?
Yeah, like in terms like from what I hear from my students, like students are really worried about their grades and stuff, like final exams and so on, entrance exams. Like it's really like there's a lot of pressure. In Russia, especially, like you don't really need English, and nobody's pressuring you to like have good grades. So it's like whatever, you just show up to the lesson, like you try, but if you don't get it, it's fine. But in Japan, you kind of have to be good at everything. Especially with English, like when most people don't really know why they might need it, it's like I have to study, but it's like it's a little more frustrating, I would say, here. So students are pressured to have good grades.
Okay. You teach English to Japanese.
Yeah.
Do you think Japanese are good at English?
Like I have students of different levels. I guess it comes to being shy at first, because most people, I mean, except Kansai, I would say. Because people from Kansai, no matter the level, they're just like very talkative and so on. But when it comes to like Tokyo, Tohoku area, that really depends. I have like very open students, like the ones who are not really afraid, even if the level is like not super high, they still try. But at the same time, I have students who would only give you like one word answers, even though their listening skills, they're amazing. They understand much more than they can say.
So lastly, what do you think is most important to be able to speak English?
There was one good quote that I just recently heard. It says, embarrassment does not exist. Because like, when is the last time that like you can think of somebody else doing something embarrassing? The only thing that you can think of is you doing something embarrassing that you think is embarrassing. But like, the reality is other people do not care. Even if you make a mistake, you're like, oh, I should have said it better, or like I should have said it a different way, or like who cares, like nobody's gonna remember me by that. So that's the most important thing, like do not care, like, because people don't care as well. So
Okay, that's very good word. Thank you so much.
no problem, thank you.
Thank you for your cooperation. Where are you from?
I'm from Sweden.
Firstly, you speak English, and how is it common for your people to be able to speak English?
I think it's very common. Most Swedish people speak English.
Okay. In your case, how did you learn English?
TV, internet, all television, like movies are not translated. Everything is in English. And also in school, we learn English from a young age.
Did you go to public school
Yeah.
in Sweden?
Yeah.
And from what age do you learn English as a subject?
I think first or second grade. We start early.
7?
Yeah, 6, 7 years old.
6, 7 years
Yeah.
old. How many classes do you have per week?
It's probably around 2.
Only 2.
Yeah, 2.
It's same as Japan, right?
Yeah.
We basically learned like grammar by using textbook. We didn't have like speaking lessons, but what about in your country?
Yeah, I think it's a bit different in Sweden because we have to speak. Like it's more focused on conversation rather than grammar. And then we get grammars to study, like homework, but during classes it's more conversation.
While you are in Japan, how long have you been in Japan?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Or you maybe speak Japanese then?
I am half Japanese actually.
Are you half Japanese?
Yeah.
So you can speak
I
Japanese?
can, yeah.
Okay. But did you have opportunity to speak English with Japanese?
Not so many Japanese people speak English. They're usually very shy. You have to like warm them up a bit and then you can get them to speak. But yeah,
Okay.
I don't use English too much with Japanese people.
It's because they don't want to use
Yeah,
it.
I find them shy. Like they're usually better at speaking English than they think they are. But if you start talking to them, they will eventually speak. But yeah, it takes them a while to warm up.
So you think that Japanese are not so bad at like speaking English?
I think they're not comfortable. They're not used to, like, they know the rules. I think you have studied it well, so you know the basics, but you're just not used to using it outside the texts. So it's harder to, talk.
Okay. I heard from some like Americans that the Japanese are not so like good at like pronunciation, but as we study a lot of grammar in school, so like it is like easy to understand what Japanese are trying to speak in English. How do you think about it?
Yeah, I would probably agree. Yeah, it's easy to understand, but it just doesn't sound natural. It doesn't come very comfortably, yeah.
Lastly, what do you think is important to be able to speak English? Some advice?
I think you just need to put yourself in a situation where it's impossible to use Japanese, where you're forced to. That's the fastest way to learn a language, just to force yourself. Just hang out with people that don't speak Japanese, and you only have one choice, and that is to speak English.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
ご視聴ありがとうございました。いかがだったでしょうか？日本の英語教育はもっとこうなるべきだ。いや、今のままで十分でしょう。学生時代こういう授業にしてほしかった。今中学生だけど最近の英語授業は結構いい感じだよ。などなど皆さんのご意見を聞きたいです。ぜひコメント欄で教えてください。他にも動画のご感想やテーマのご要望などコメント欄で教えていただけますと幸いです。たくさんのコメントお待ちしております。チャンネル登録、いいねボタンもよろしくお願いいたします。